So joining us today to discuss achieving revenue growth with AI are Ryan Gallagher, CEO and co-founder of iovox, and Ella Wu, Director of Product at iovox. Ryan, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. So for those who don't know me, I'm Ryan Gallagher. So I'm the CEO and founder of iovox, and I'm an engineer by trade. So other than my first early jobs, which were mainly in support and lower level things, I've had a great technology career where I've worked on many cutting edge things. These include large scale projects with some of the largest companies in the world. So I've worked on improving the backbone internet. Back when it wasn't equipped to handle streaming video or audio, we had a really interesting project to try and figure out how to get that done. That was back in probably 2000, 2001. I've also worked on multiple big data projects, which are also always exciting. And I'm excited to be here today to give you an overview of the state of AI and conversation analytics. AI obviously is a very big, very exciting space at the moment, so it's a pleasure to be involved in it. But I'm going to hand over to Ella to introduce herself.
Hi all, my name's Ella. I'm the Director of Product at iovox. So with 11 years of experience in UX design, I've developed a passion for digital product innovation and the love of solving challenging problems. I'm responsible for bridging the gap between our business goals with our customers to create innovative products.
Thanks, Ella. All right, so today we'll try and keep this fairly light and fast-paced, but we're going to start by giving you a brief introduction of who we are, what we do, who we work with, and after that, we're going to go on to give you hopefully a pretty low-level understanding of AI before we move on to what is undoubtedly the elephant in the room, which is ethics and privacy in the world of AI. And then we're going to finish by showing you how to use your data and innovation to generate more revenue, which everybody likes. And at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. So I encourage you to ask questions during that, as Sonia already mentioned. So let's kick it off with who are we? So iovox is a global conversation analytics company. We've been around for over a decade now, and we work with many different industries. We work in real estate, automotive, healthcare, insurance, hospitality, and many more. Pretty much anywhere that conversations are important to your business, we can help. We're a tier 1 carrier in multiple countries, and we support our customers all over the globe in many different languages. We also work in many different jurisdictions, which has its challenges, and each have their own privacy legislations, and we always behave ethically and follow the regulations. Basically, what we do is provide actionable information to companies that we work with to save money. And we're going to dig into concrete examples of this later on. So here's an example of some of the brands we work with. You've got the obligatory slideshow, have to have your logos in there. We're lucky enough to have a lot of very impressive logos. So as you can see, they're very international as well. There really is not a company in this industry which actually matches our global reach. So we get to see trends and ideas from all around the world, and this gives us unparalleled insights into what works, what doesn't work, and it also helps figure out what we're building next and guide us on the right path. It makes us experts in our field as well, and we are able to use that expertise to help our customers and help them improve their own businesses. So I'm going to be describing AI to you in general, and then I'm going to make a few references to our iovox Insights product, which Ella will go into more details later in the presentation if you're not aware of this product. But it's our conversation analytics product, and essentially Insights allows you to see what's happening on your calls and allows you to have action on those. So let's jump in. So by now, everyone has heard about AI. It's fast-moving AI chatbots. You've got OpenAI's GPT. You've got Google's Bard, Facebook's Llama, now Amazon with Bedrock. There's pretty much a new news story every day. And new versions and new platforms are spinning off from the existing ones, and they're being created from scratch too, pretty much all the time. But what is AI? So how does it work, and is it safe? It's going to be a brief overview here, so don't expect to be an expert at the end, but you should be armed with enough basic knowledge to ask the right questions or to sound like you know what you're talking about at parties anyway. You can start Q&A at the end of this event as well, but if you have any further questions that come up afterwards, just reach out. We're always available. We're always happy to help. And we're lucky enough to have people on the team here who are keeping us on the right path and staying on top of this technology because it's really fast moving and it changes all the time. So seriously, what is AI? I'm going to start with computers. So computers as we know them have been computing better than us for decades, but most people don't realize that the term computer used to refer to people who actually computed things, not machines who later replaced them. But computers essentially use programs, which is basically a list of commands. If this, then do that. So for example, if you're trying to find the fastest route between A and B, you can ask a computer. The program tells it to measure the distance on the roads, it factors in traffic and speed limits, and then it chooses the fastest route for you. The computer computes the best route, but it's only as good as the human-generated code, which tells it exactly what to do. It doesn't really think, it just follows a flow chart that's already been pre-programmed into it. So you can also teach a computer, and I say teach in inverted commas, to play chess by programming in all of the options available to a player. But it's a lengthy process. So you have to tell the computer to, factor in every single move that you can possibly make, who can move in which order, which different pieces move in different ways. And then, of course, that gets extrapolated out to the responses in a very long instruction set. But wouldn't it be better if you could just tell it the rules, load in thousands of games and then let it figure it out for itself? This, in a nutshell, is what AI and machine learning are. So what is AI? AI is basically a computer which tries to think or reason like a human being. So you feed it lots of data, you give it some desired outcomes, and then off it goes. In the example of chess, this is relatively straightforward for a computer to understand, and this is known as a narrow AI. But it gets really complicated when we get into general AIs and the specifics of human language, and it gets really, really tricky. So I'll use an example to try and explain. So Ella here sends 100,000 emails a year, I think. I haven't counted them, but that's a rough estimate. And I want the computer to tell me how many of those emails actually mention the phrase delayed release date, which should be easy enough. But what happens when I ask the computer if Ella was angry when she composed the email? So Ella's usually pretty happy, so there's not too many emails to find out of that 100K emails. But here's the catch. How on earth is a computer going to know what that is? How does a computer know what the term angry means, much less how an average human expresses it? And then we get into the specifics of how does Ella express her anger in an email. So everyone knows email exchanges lead to miscommunication. So this happens all the time. Somebody sends an email, somebody gets annoyed, they take it the wrong way. So we humans can't really read them that well, but we're expecting a computer to figure it out. So how do we do it? Well, we use large language models. We use things like NLP and sentiment analysis, but it's tough to get it right. You can definitely expect some mistakes, but the key here is humans make mistakes too. And the main difference is I can get an AI to read those 100,000 emails and give me my response in seconds. Now, if I wanted to do that myself, it's going to take a long, long time, and I'm still going to make mistakes. But I'm going to go through is some terms. So things that you may hear. So NLP and NER. So they're basically the tools used to understand language and to pull important pieces of data out of it. So NLP is natural language processing. This is used to understand language. And NER is named entity recognition. That basically identifies important pieces of text, like an entity is a name, an address, a phone number, a credit card, anything which is an identifiable entity in a large string of text. So an AI model, in simple terms, is a program that has been trained to spot patterns in data, and then to use that to arrive at a prediction, decision, or a more general response. So you put in a ton of data, it indexes it, summarizes it, and it makes it searchable. And when you ask it a question, it uses that data to answer your question. It essentially searches that huge amount of data for patterns. So next up, you're going to hear about unsupervised, supervised, and reinforcement learning. So unsupervised learning is broad pattern searching on a data set without guidance. So you basically throw in a whole bunch of data into effectively a blender. It goes through that and searches for patterns. So for example, first-time buyers might need financing more than any other type of buyer. You're basically looking for something interesting that you're not aware of before, and you're asking the machine to find patterns. You have given it zero guidance. That's why it's unsupervised learning. Sometimes this is really useful to find things that are unexpected. But the next one is supervised learning. Now, supervised learning needs two sets of data. So in our case, we give it call outcomes and a whole bunch of calls. So essentially, you give the call outcomes like an appointment was booked, and then you ask it to find other patterns that are related to that event or which point to that event having happened. So other than the obvious, what else shows that an appointment was booked? Does saying good morning increase the likelihood of being able to get the caller to book an appointment? You're looking for patterns in that data, you've given it some guidance, and then you've given it a bunch of calls which are already categorized, and then it's trying to apply that logic to all the other uncategorized calls. And next up, you have reinforcement learning. So this is kind of iterative. So you go through, you improve it, you give feedback, and you train the model with corrections. there's a lot of things in language drift. There's new words that appear. There's new things you're looking for. So these models have to be updated constantly. And the last one on this list is transparency. So transparency is one of the biggest issues with an AI model. And you can see interviews with the CEO of Google, who's very worried. He doesn't know what his AI are doing. There was the case where Facebook's two chatbots were talking to each other and they made up a new language. So they didn't really know what was going on. So they turned them off. So you need to know, how does an AI model reach the conclusion it comes to? So many AI models, as they get smarter, it becomes harder to figure out why they think this happened. So you should be able to check how and why your model makes decisions, though. This is really important, but it's important for accuracy, but also for ethical reasons. You need to understand, why did it come to that conclusion? So AI is not always right, but it's pretty much almost always useful. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, which I mentioned before, which is privacy. So if you're using a shared learning AI model, the minute you put data into it, aka your question, it does not belong to you anymore. If the model is learning like ChatGPT, it's going to use that data to answer other people's questions. Samsung employees have already been burned by this, where they leak trade secrets into the web. There's a bunch of companies, you can Google them. I'm not going to mention the names here, but they've used their source code, uploaded to ChatGPT and asked it questions to find bugs. That source code is now public. So anything you put into these open learning AIs is no longer your information. So this is obviously a big concern. Some AIs are now insisting that if you send a request in via the API, they're not going to share your data openly, but they're still going to store it and they will use it internally. So it's very tempting to use these tools, but it can also be really dangerous. In some regions, more so than others, depending on privacy laws and regulations. We've already seen, it's been banned in Italy. There's the EU is looking at banning a lot of these things. So let's be super clear. Anyone who uses these tools and is rushing forward with a ChatGPT-based solution can be endangering you and your customers. So this is why in iovox, we use in-house private models. We do not share them with the outside world. We don't blend our customer data and private information with public data. We use models which we build in-house, we host ourselves. We never use them in a publicly shared environment. So be extremely careful. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And be careful you're not sacrificing privacy to get better accuracy. And talking about accuracy, so this gets better every single day. I remember, even 6 months, 2 years ago, where this just was not anywhere close ready for production. But now, as you've seen with, playing around with ChatGPT, which I assume most people have done, it's getting better very fast. So it relies, though, on good data to start with. And in our business, the hardest part is accuracy and transcriptions. So at iovox, we track and analyze voice calls along with email, SMS, chat. And email, chat, and SMS conversations are much easier because it's already in text. So we already have that text. But when you have a phone call, we have to convert that audio into text. And we're already dealing with a low quality voice stream, which is a phone call. So it's really important to get the call in stereo. So we have each party speaking separately in a different media channel. And we need it in as high quality as we possibly can. So we clean up the audio, we identify the correct language or languages. There's many calls where multiple languages are spoken. And in some instances, we slow those calls down about 10% to try and get it a little bit more accurate. If the call runs over our network, this is much easier. So if it's one of our numbers that the call is coming through, we can do a whole bunch of work on that call. But if it comes in from another system, it can be more difficult. If it's handed to us in a lower bit rate, if it's not in stereo when we get it, we're going to have a less accurate outcome. So once we have that text, though, we feed it into the system, and then we can use it to train and build new models. The accuracy is going to improve, but the first day is always the worst, and there are going to be mistakes. But you have to make sure you take this into account. There's things you can do as well. So we have companies who have resources that can help with training. So one customer has 8 people listening to 1% of their calls. When we put in an automated system which can now listen to 100% of the calls, those 8 people can now be used to test and verify the output that comes out of the training system. So there's a lot of things that can do to improve this, and it's mind-blowing how fast this is actually improving. But make no mistake, big data is still tough. So a library may have every single book in it, but imagine if you have to read them all just to find a single quote that you're looking for. And in terms of making timely business decisions, big data is absolutely useless unless you have a system which highlights and triggers events. So we process millions of conversations. Our job is to find out which ones a customer, or in many cases, our customer's customer, should be looking at. And even then, we haven't finished our job. We need to tell them why you're looking at it, what's important about the conversation, and which part of the conversation is relevant. So we do this, and we do this by sending the pertinent details in an email. We can send it in an SMS. We can send it straight into an online CRM. We can use webhooks too, so we can pretty much send it to any end system which accepts an inbound web request. And we can also show it in scheduled reports. We can show it in our dashboards. But the key is what's important out of this big pile of data, what is important, who is it important to, and why is it important, and getting that to them as fast as possible. So I'm going to jump into this next one. So before I hand over to Ella, I'm going to summarize how this is broken down into stages. So effectively, this is a cluster of calls. Now, we don't know what's in these calls to begin with. So this is just conversation data. We don't know what it contains. We have to put it into our models. It actually wouldn't be scattered out like that originally. It would just be one big blob in the middle, but we've done this to make it look a bit prettier, honestly. So what we do is we run that through our models, and then we figure out what were the call outcomes. So we're specifically looking for call outcomes here. We're looking for appointment discussed, appointment booked, financing discussed, and these little dots, what they do is they show you where the data clusters together. So you can see, first of all, what is valuable to you as a company, because these topics may not be what you're looking for. It depends on our customer, it depends on the segment that they work in. So are people asking for a mortgage? Are they being asked if they want a mortgage when they mention they don't have one? And if so, does somebody book a financial services appointment? Where are the calls coming from? Is it Google, Bing, Facebook? Are people purchasing high value properties or low value properties more likely to need financing? You can see that on clustered data as well. You can also see in this data that customers requiring financing are not always overlapping with financing being discussed. That's a missed opportunity, because if somebody says they need a mortgage, but there's no response, no discussion which follows up, that's a missed opportunity for revenue. So does somebody require assistance moving from Scotland? If somebody calls up from Scotland inquiring about a property in London, they're obviously going to be moving. So that's another opportunity which certain businesses can take advantage of. All of this becomes really clear once you start to put in this data. You have your defined set of outcomes you're looking for, and then using unsupervised learning, we can actually find more interesting things which may or may not be relevant to you as a business. It's a learning process that starts with, here's what we know we want to know, and then we find out more as we go along. So at this point, we narrow down the field, and then either people or our machines can start to deep dive and pull out the things that it found. For example, you can pull out a single quote out of millions of conversations. You can search phone calls like emails now, and you can find out what is important to you. You can rerun these data sets as well. That's very important. You might say, okay, I have these 10 things I'm looking for, and the next day realize by deep diving into one call that actually there's a new thing in there which you hadn't thought of. And then you can run this new rule that you create on hundreds of thousands, millions of calls. This basically allows you to improve your business top to bottom. We've already proven, and Ella's going to go through details here, that we can find new revenue streams. We can make more revenue for yourselves and for your customers. There's a treasure trove of information here. There's a lot of data. We can help you dig through that and find opportunity with iovox Insights. So hopefully you get the model up and running, you rinse, repeat, and then you count the money from the new revenue streams. That's the idea, and we are proving it works. So once again, what we do, we help companies save or make money. Anything that happens in a conversation, we're able to deep dive, we're able to improve on getting more leads, getting more value out of the leads that you create. There's a lot of work that we do on this all day, every day. We're working around the globe, around the clock. So I'm going to pass over to Ella now, who's going to take you through some concrete examples of how iovox Insights has actually helped real customers.
Thank you, Ryan. So in this part of the presentation, I'm going to show you a real life example of how we helped our client capture new sources of revenue using conversational AI. So working closely with a marketplace portal, we were able to deliver $4.9 million in incremental revenue to one client by using iovox Insights. The most important part is that this marketplace portal was able to monetize this and bring in the $4 million across 60 offices in a single year. So first, let's examine how we are able to assist our client in generating this substantial amount of revenue. through the use of iovox Insight, and then I'll go back to more specific details about this opportunity. So with the power of our conversational AI technology, any communication, such as phone calls, can be seamlessly transformed into text. Our innovative algorithm will comb through thousands and thousands of texts to extract important information that can be used for reporting and action taking. So rather than just saying when a call has happened, we can actually show you what's happened on the call. We can highlight hidden opportunities, measure customer experience, identify problems, and get deeper insights into your customer's behavior. With these identified, we can trigger automatic alerts to relevant agents or team, push into new existing workflows, which can then help extract that missed value. Insight is going to help spot trends in the market and then have all these automated triggers and particular so that we can understand what call outcomes were. We essentially are transforming phone calls into a fully searchable object, much to how an email is searchable. Many agents, marketplace portals would manually search calls on a very small sample size. With the use of Insights, you can actually fully automate this process, make it scalable, and use a sample size that is really significant. So going back to the marketplace case study, they use our solution with 60 offices to gain insight into the handling of inbound calls. Our goal was to ensure that they were optimizing the value of each call and capitalizing on missed opportunities, particular seller leads and financial service leads. So the results was astounding because that huge value of $4.9 million that would have been missed in revenue for those calls. So what's truly remarkable is how the marketplace leveraged this data to drive growth. With a collaborative approach, they were able to increase their monthly recurring revenue by impressive 33% in subscription fees. So this gave the marketplace more opportunities to monetize its offerings as they were delivering a portion of the traffic to that group was receiving. They were able to capitalize on this added value and expand their revenue streams. So what was the user journey? Firstly, the marketplace went live with our numbers for all 60 offices. As the call comes in, it comes through the iovox platform where we capture the recording and then pass it on to the agent, providing a seamless phone call experience. And then with that recording, we're able to transcribe the calls into text and then analyze data for valuable insights. Anytime an opportunity was missed, we immediately triggered an email to the relevant teams, allowing them to follow up and recapture that lost value. Over time, we refine the process and it can be automated by their CRM system, seamlessly integrating into their existing workflows. So some of the graphs you see here was taken directly from a presentation made by that marketplace to their real estate agent group. But the results were truly staggering. Firstly, only 18% of all applicant calls included the question, do you have something to sell? Which is a vital piece of information for any real estate agent. With the help of iovox Insights, we were able to analyze the data and extract the fact that 6% of all calls involved applicants with property sale, and more importantly, they have not instructed an agent to sell the property. The agents were only capturing 4% of those potential leads, so meaning 2% of all calls that presented new seller opportunities were missed. So just imagine that potential impact of catching that additional 2% of seller leads for your platform's traffic and lead generation. It would undoubtedly result in significant boost in revenue for your customers. So this slide highlights the journey for capturing financial service leads. Surprising, the question, do you have a mortgage or variation of it, was only asked 11% of all calls. However, using iovox Insight, we were able to determine that it was a massive 65% of all applicant calls required a mortgage. Unfortunately, agents were only capturing 46% of the leads, resulting 19% of the calls with missed financial service opportunities. So when you consider the combined impact of missed leads, it's clear to see how the numbers quickly add up. So you have 2% of missed seller leads, 19% missed financial services. You can see how quickly that becomes $4.9 million of incremental business across 60 offices. So these numbers clearly demonstrate the immense value that iovox Insights can bring to businesses of all sizes. So how do we help other industries? With Auto Marketplace, we discovered some dealers were mishandling high value calls, especially with cash buyers. They were eager to make a purchase, yes, yet many were ignored with I'll call you back response. So therefore losing that vital new sale. We highlighted this in our report, which prompted them to implement retraining and added email alerts for follow-ups. Due to inadequate data capture, one of our insurance customers was failing to capture cross-policy sales. When a customer calls to inquire about one of the policy types, agents tend to overlook opportunities to discuss other policy types that could have been relevant to the customer. Highlighted this in the report. They plan to retrain its agents to be more aware of cross-policy opportunities and to capture all relevant customer data during the calls. Additionally, the customer intends to take advantage of remarketing opportunities with existing leads by reaching out to them to discuss additional policy options. For healthcare, they experience a significant variation in appointment closing rates across their clinics. So it ranged between 45% to 95%. This means that some locations were successful in closing high percentage of new appointments and others were not performing as well. We also found that some agents were recommending competing products that were available on Amazon rather than selling directly to the customers. So through the use of our analytic tool, we were able to identify best practices and provide targeted retraining for the lower performing locations, resulting in a noticeable improvement in appointment closure rates. Regulatory compliance is a critical concern for the financial services. In order to comply with these regulations, many would implement call recording and transcriptions, which capture and document the content of conversations. However, these recordings often contain sensitive and personal information that must be protected to ensure customers' privacy and prevent the risk of data breaches. We use AI data reduction to automatically identify and remove personal identifiable information from call recordings and transcriptions. So they could include things like name, addresses, date of birth, any other sensitive data that could be used to identify individuals. Our AI data reduction is a valuable tool for any organization that needs to store call recordings and transcription while maintaining compliance and protecting customer privacy. So how to use iovox Insights? When it comes to phone calls, the most important factor is to have a call recording. If you already have call recordings in your N6 system, that's great. We can seamlessly integrate that into iovox Insights. Alternative, we can capture call recordings for you using some of our call services. So there's two main ways of doing this. First is initiating a call with iovox tracking numbers, or using a button on your website to initiate the call. With dedicated numbers, which is our tracking numbers, you can take our numbers and place them to your campaigns. So it could be for email, TV, radio, or on your website. And then when someone calls that number, it'll be immediately routed to your desired agent or team. And then behind the scenes, we're able to capture when the call has happened, for what campaign, and the recording itself. With dynamic numbers, you can get far greater information on the caller, as this uses a pool of tracking numbers, which gets assigned to each visitor that visits your website, so that you can track user sessions, user journeys, web metadata, etc. And then that information gets attached to the call, and then the call comes through the platform where we can collect the call recording. For both Web Callback and Web Connect, it uses a button to initiate a call. A button can be placed anywhere on your web page. It could be in a pop-up. The Web Callback is a form fill where the visitor will fill in their telephone number and then will schedule an instant or a future callback. So at the point of callback, a call is made to the agent, a call is made to the visitor, and then that gets bridged together to for them to have a normal phone call experience. With Web Connect is where a visitor can trigger a call directly from their web browser through to the agent. So with the need of no numbers, this reduces the risk for spam calls. This also eliminates the high phone number costs for certain countries. So what are the benefits? Insights allow you to run calls through at scale and analyze 100% of your calls, giving you a view of the total instead of a small sample size. This also means you free up members of your team who would usually spend hours laboriously listening to call samples. Combining call data and our conversational AI technology, we can identify missed opportunities to help you drive significant growth for your business. We can look for topics such as what products or services our most callers are interested in, if they're a cash buyer, do any of these calls convert in the first call? If not, we can set up email alerts to be followed up. The power behind Insights is allowing you to identify keyword patterns in your conversations that's resulting in conversions. So you'll have the advantage of bidding for the right advertising keywords and optimizing your marketing campaigns. In the long term, it would help you make better advertising strategies and reduce your ad spend for better ROI improvement. And then lastly, know what's happening on your calls. You will start to notice patterns emerging from your data. We can highlight those hidden opportunities for you. You'll be able to measure customer experience, identify problems, and get deeper insights into your customers' behavior. Okay, thank you, everybody. That concludes our presentation. I'm going to pass it back to Ryan just to talk a bit about this special offer we have for you.
Thanks, Ella. Yeah, I mean, this product is the coolest thing we've ever built, honestly. It's very exciting. We're seeing so many interesting things out of it, but you don't have to take our word for it. So give us 1,000 calls and we'll put it through the system and see what we find. That's free, no obligation to do anything further. We've done this with quite a few customers to just trial to see how it works. some people aren't sure if we can process different languages. We can. Some people aren't sure what they're looking for until we show them. We found some really interesting things which have helped a lot of businesses. So feel free to take advantage of this offer and send us 1,000 of your calls. Contact us. Obviously, there's an email address there, or if you normally, you can reach out to them as well. But I'm going to pass that back to Sonia now for Q&A.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ella. So we are now at the Q&A section, and if you do have any questions, now's the time to write them in the chat. I have a few questions here to get us started. So Ryan, Ella, question 1, how many languages are supported?
We support many different languages. We have some customers already using in French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. It's an ever-growing list. So at the moment, we have about 40 to 50 languages that we support, but we're open to discussing whatever language people might be interested in using.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ella. How much does this cost roughly?
Depending on the complexity of the product that fits your needs, it's very low in costs if it's in bulk. Literally pennies per minute. Most call lasts around 3 to 4 minutes, so you're looking around 12 to 15 cents per call. But like Ryan said, we're happy to offer free insights analysis up to 1,000 of your recorded calls.
Is ChatGPT used for this service?
No, absolutely not. So I personally use ChatGPT. I really like it. It's cool. General interest things. It's really fun, but we do not use it for anything in iovox. It's not secure or safe to do so.
Thank you, Ryan. How is the service GDPR compliant when other AI services are being shut down in Europe?
So we only use our own models and technologies, which we host ourselves. So we never, ever share your data into an open shared model. So again, it's not safe to share your data into an open model. So we simply don't do it. We're a privacy first company. So there's very good reasons why AIs are being limited in their scope in Europe. People don't really seem to understand what happens once they put that data into it. So we do understand, and that's why we don't do it.
Will I be able to see my data in a scatter plot in the iovox platform like the one that you showed?
Soon. We're building a whole bunch of new things, from word clouds to scatter plots. We use a lot of this stuff internally, so that's all being baked into the product as we speak.
Ryan, how accurate is your conversational AI technology?
So it depends on language, what topics you're looking for on more, but on average, we see something in the high 90s. But again, dependent. Weirdly enough, French seems to be the most accurate. So.
All right. Can insights be used without call recordings being saved?
The short answer, no. We can very easily run insights on emails and SMS because they're in text form. But for call recordings, they will need to be converted into text in order to run insights on them.
Wonderful. So we have one comment, one question here in the chat. So the comment from Brian, that's awesome. We will catch up with you about that. And Cecilia, how are keywords set up in my account? Am I limited to specific search criteria only, or are there industry-specific libraries that could help?
So we have pre-baked models for different industries, which you can take advantage of straight away. And then, of course, you can add to them with some sort of more nuanced things that you're looking for. So we often get a lot of people who think they're looking for these 10 things, and then we find out other things. That can be anything from what exactly does somebody say when they phone up, that coming back to that short tail, long tail keyword thing where you're advertising for your local vet, which is very expensive. And then you realize that there's a lot of the people who are phoning are specifically looking for somebody who can fix their dog's nail, which is a much cheaper keyword. So there can be things like that, or sometimes we found that one of our customers had a lot of emergency calls, which are extreme emergency services calls. that gives you more insight. But we have our basic industry-specific models, which you start using straight away, and then we'll help you build more sort of tailored search terms and things that you could be looking for, or you may already have ideas of things you want to know.
And just Marcus, to your question, yes, definitely 100%. We can put the video and the deck into the email that we send out and just make those available. Brian, great product overview, thanks. What is the integration timeline to a portal?
That depends on whether you're going to implement our numbers or whether we're going to pull in calls from your side, and also what you're going to build in. So some of our bigger customers build a fully fledged suite of products inside their own product using our APIs, but we could have you live in a matter of 2 weeks. It could take you 2 months to build all of the integrations in, or you could just go live a lot faster and just start to.
We lost Ryan.
Okay. So thank you, Ryan and Ella, and thanks to everybody for joining us. As mentioned, everybody will be getting a copy of this webinar via email. We'll put the deck in there as well. And if you have any questions that you didn't get answered or something comes up later or next week, please write to webinars@iovox.com. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.